Did he think that an accidental fall and a few insincere apologies could erase all the betrayal and humiliation? When he lay blind in the hospital bed, using his last bargaining chip, the wedding ring, to exchange for a divorce agreement, I only left 2 words: too late. The phone screen lit up, pushing a text message from the top auction house, Prestige Auctions. I opened it, and a familiar photo came into view, the only relic left by my father, a uniquely designed aquamarine brooch. It was actually going to be publicly auctioned. My heart sank suddenly, as if gripped by an invisible hand. I immediately called Ethan Sterling. He is my husband and the president of the Sterling Group. The phone rang for a long time before it was answered. The background noise was a bit noisy, and I could vaguely hear a woman's laughter. What is it? Ethan's voice carried a hint of impatience, a businesslike tone. Ethan, Dad's brooch. It's on Prestige Auctions auction list. How could you? My voice trembled slightly. Oh, that matter, he said dismissively. The company has been busy lately, and an important project requires my attention. That brooch. Let's talk about it later. Later? The auction is tonight. Ethan, you promised me. You said that when we had money, the first thing we would do is redeem it. I almost shouted. This brooch was temporarily mortgaged to provide Ethan with startup funds. He held me and solemnly promised that he would never let it fall into the hands of others. Ava, stop being unreasonable. His voice turned cold. I told you I was busy. It's just a brooch. Is it worth you making such a fuss about it? I'll have my assistant handle it later. Assistant? Ethan Sterling, that is. The phone was hung up mercilessly. I held the phone, my fingertips ice cold. The screen still showed the WhatsApp message he had sent a few minutes ago. There's an emergency meeting tonight. I won't be coming home. Emergency meeting? I looked at the cold message on my phone screen, and combined it with the faint laughter of a woman in the phone. A chill ran from the soles of my feet to the top of my head. The so-called emergency meeting was just an excuse for him to accompany his new love, Chloe Vance. Sterling Group is now an industry giant, and redeeming a brooch is just a drop in the bucket. He refused, not because he was busy, nor because he didn't have money, but because he didn't care anymore. Or rather, he cared more about another woman's feelings. My heart felt heavy, but I couldn't just give up like that. That was the only memento my father left me, a testimony to the years of hardship I and he had shared. I changed my clothes, grabbed my car keys, and headed straight for Prestige Auctions auction house. The auction hall was brightly lit and filled with celebrities. I spotted Ethan immediately. He was sitting in the most conspicuous position in the front row, and next to him was Chloe Vance, the model who had been in the limelight recently. She was wearing an eye-catching red dress, with exquisite makeup, and was smiling and leaning against Ethan's ear, saying something, while Ethan turned his head, listening attentively, with a gentle smile on his lips. That kind of smile, once upon a time, belonged only to me. My appearance didn't attract Ethan's attention, or perhaps he noticed it but chose to ignore it. However, Chloe, who was beside him, glanced over with obvious provocation and smugness. She even deliberately raised her hand and stroked Ethan's tie, the gesture intimate and natural. I clenched the strap of my handbag, my nails almost digging into my flesh. I forced myself to look away and found an inconspicuous corner to sit down. The auction proceeded in an orderly manner, with one item after another being presented and sold for high prices. But my heart was constantly in suspense, until the host announced the next item. Next up is a very special aquamarine brooch, from a famous designer. My heart rate suddenly accelerated. The brooch was focused on by the lights, lying quietly on the velvet cushion, emitting a faint glow. It was designed by my father himself, one of a kind in the world. Starting price, $500,000 US. Beep beep beep. I immediately raised my bidding paddle. $550,000. A crisp female voice rang out. It was Chloe. When she raised her paddle, she deliberately turned back to look at me, the flaunting in her eyes almost overflowing. Ethan sat beside her, not stopping her, but instead giving a tolerant smile and gently patting the back of her hand. My blood surged. 600,000. I gritted my teeth and raised my paddle again. 700,000. Chloe followed up without hesitation, her voice even louder. 800,000. 1 million. Chloe directly added 200,000, causing a small commotion around her. She looked at Ethan, who responded with a whatever you like look. The palms of my hands started to sweat. The funds I brought were limited, and I only learned about this auction at the last minute. so there was no time to mobilize more. 1 million is already close to my limit. 1,100,000. I quoted the number, my voice a little hoarse. I looked at Ethan, trying to find a trace of emotion or hesitation in his eyes. Nothing. There was nothing. He didn't even look at me. All his attention was on Chloe beside him. Chloe chuckled and raised her sign again. 1,500,000. She turned her face and mouth to me. Ava, give up. 5 million. All my liquid funds combined are not enough for this amount. I looked at the brooch on the stage. It was the result of my father's hard work, the witness to the beginning of our love, and something he promised to protect for me for the rest of my life. Now, he is personally giving it to another woman. My heart felt like it was being torn in two. I helplessly lowered my bidding hand. 5 million once. 5 million twice. The auctioneer's voice echoed in my ears, every word like a hammer hitting my heart. 5 million. Sold. Congratulations to this lady. As the auctioneer's hammer fell, everything settled. Chloe excitedly hugged Ethan's arm and kissed him on the face. Ethan accepted with a smile and then signaled his assistant to complete the formalities. The auction ended, and the crowd gradually dispersed. I walked out dejectedly, and was stopped just as I reached the door. It was Chloe, holding the velvet box in her hand, opening it triumphantly in front of me. Ava, look, it's beautiful, isn't it? Ethan said this brooch really compliments my eyes. She picked up the brooch, pretending to pin it on her chest. I stared intently at the brooch, my fingernails digging painfully into my palm. At this moment, Ethan walked over. It started to rain outside, carrying the chill of late autumn. He took off his cashmere coat and, without any hesitation, draped it over Chloe's shoulders, the movement so natural as if he had rehearsed it 1,000 times. Be careful not to catch a cold, he said to Chloe, his tone so gentle it could drip with water. Meanwhile, I, wearing a thin formal dress, stood just a few steps away at the edge of the rain wetting my hair and shoulders, shivering with cold, but he didn't even see me. My car, of all times, had a problem at this moment and wouldn't start no matter what. I stood in the rain, watching my car break down, watching Ethan put his arm around Chloe and walk towards his Bentley, watching them drive away, feeling like a clown abandoned by the whole world, utterly humiliated. The rain grew heavier and heavier, and I was soaked to the bone, feeling the cold penetrate me. Just as I was about to call for a tow truck, the Bentley returned and stopped in front of me. The car window rolled down, revealing Chloe's face with a fake smile. Oh, Ava, is your car broken down? How pitiful. As she spoke, she shook the brooch box in her hand. But compared to this, your car doesn't seem like such a big deal. Ethan sat in the driver's seat, looking straight ahead with a blank expression, as if I were just an insignificant obstacle on the side of the road. Ethan bid for this brooch for me. He said that the moment he saw it, he knew it belonged to me. Chloe's voice wasn't loud, but every word was like a dagger to my heart. Unlike some people who always bring up things from the past, it's so boring. I looked at Ethan, and he finally turned his head, his gaze falling on my face with indifference. Ava, it's just a brooch. Do you have to be like this? What good does it do you to make Chloe unhappy? His tone was full of blame, as if I was the one being unreasonable and ruining the atmosphere. That's the only memento Dad left me. I almost broke down. You promised me. Let the past be the past. Ethan frowned, his tone filled with obvious impatience. People have to look forward. It's not like you can't have it if you really want it. He paused, a nearly cruel arc appearing at the corner of his mouth, his gaze sweeping over the expensive pair of Jimmy Choo high heels I was wearing. How about this? You take off your shoes and walk home from here. If you walk all the way home, I'll have Chloe give you the brooch. I was stunned, unable to believe my ears. He wanted me to take off my high heels and walk back barefoot in this cold, rainy night? Just for something that already belonged to me? Chloe fanned the flames, covering her mouth and laughing. Ethan, you're so bad. But this idea seems pretty interesting. The rain mixed with tears, blurring my vision. I looked at the man in front of me, the man I had loved for 10 years, the man I thought I would spend my life with, and suddenly felt utterly unfamiliar with him. My first pair of high heels were bought by him. Back then, we had just started our business and were dirt poor. He saved for months to buy me a discounted, no-name brand pair of high heels. The heels were thin and high, and they rubbed blisters all over my feet, but he held me in his arms, his eyes shining, and said, Ava, I will definitely let you wear the most beautiful and comfortable high heels in the world in the future, and I will never let you suffer anymore." The promises were still ringing in my ears, but now they have become the sharpest knives, carving into my heart bit by bit. An enormous sense of sorrow and humiliation instantly overwhelmed me. I looked at Ethan's indifferent face and Chloe's gloating expression. My heart grew colder inch by inch, eventually turning into a deathly still, frozen wasteland. Slowly, I bent down and, without the slightest hesitation, took off my high heels. The cold rainwater immediately soaked the soles of my feet, making me shiver. Then, I raised my hand and took off the diamond ring on the ring finger of my left hand, which symbolized our marriage. "Ethan Sterling." My voice was unusually calm, so calm that even I was surprised. "The brooch, I don't want it anymore. This ring, I'm returning it to you." I threw the expensive high heels, along with the diamond ring that once symbolized an eternal commitment, forcefully at his car. The shoes hit the car window, making a muffled sound, while the ring rolled onto the ground, flashing a faint light in the accumulated water. "Let's get divorced." After saying these 5 words, I felt something that had been tightly wounded in my heart snap completely. Ethan's face instantly turned ashen, his eyes filled with shock and disbelief. Chloe also dropped her smile, looking at me with some bewilderment. Just then, Chloe suddenly screamed, and the brooch box in her hand fell to the ground. The box opened, and the aquamarine brooch rolled out. One of the embedded diamonds seemed to hit the ground and a corner shattered. "Ah, my brooch!" Chloe cried out in panic, squatting down to pick it up. Whether she did it on purpose or it was a genuine accident, I no longer care. Looking at the broken brooch, I only felt disgusted. My father's hard work, a symbol of our past, was so easily destroyed. A surge of uncontrollable anger shot straight to the top of my head. I stepped forward, raised my hand, and slapped Chloe hard across the face. The crisp sound of the slap, smack, was particularly clear in the rainy night. Chloe covered her face and looked at me in disbelief. Then tears welled up, and she threw herself into Ethan's arms, crying, "Ethan, she hit me, my face hurts so much." Ethan pulled Chloe behind him, glaring at me with a dark and sinister look, as if he wanted to devour me alive. "Ava, are you crazy? Am I crazy? Ethan Sterling, look what you've done." I pointed to the brooch on the ground, my voice trembling with anger. "You destroyed the only thing my father left me for her. You humiliated me, forced me. Now you tell me, who is crazy?" Just then, a car stopped beside us, and a few people got out. They looked like Ethan's business partners. The fat man in the lead was stunned for a moment when he saw the scene. Then a smile appeared on his face, and he quickly walked up to Ethan. "Mr. Sterling, what a coincidence. This must be Mrs. Sterling? So young and beautiful. A perfect match for you." He obviously didn't recognize me and mistakenly took Chloe, who was crying and hiding in Ethan's arms, as the real wife. He greeted Ethan and Chloe warmly, showering them with flattery. When he glanced at me, his eyes held a hint of contempt and confusion, as if wondering who this woman was. Soaked to the bone, barefoot, and hitting people, Ethan didn't explain. He acquiesced to their misunderstanding, allowing them to flatter him and Chloe, leaving me aside like an irrelevant joke. At that moment, I couldn't even feel the coldness in my heart, only numbness. The rain was still falling, and I stood barefoot in the cold puddles, feeling not a trace of warmth. Chloe wiped away her tears and suddenly remembered something. She turned around, took a pair of brand new flats from the trunk of the Bentley, walked up to me, and said with feigned concern, "Ava, you look so pitiful. Wear these shoes for now, so you don't catch a cold." They were a very ordinary pair of white canvas flats, simple in style, but they made my pupils shrink suddenly. This pair of shoes is exactly the same as the one I used to wear most often in college. Even the way the shoelaces are tied is the same as my habit back then. Ethan, he remembers. He remembers everything about our past, remembers what style of shoes I wore, remembers all my preferences and habits. He didn't forget. He remembers everything clearly, but he chooses to use these memories to hurt me, to remind me in this way how much he once loved me, and now, how cruel he is. He gave Chloe a brooch that symbolizes our past, and then took out these shoes that represent my youthful days. This is not a coincidence at all. It's a carefully planned humiliation. A strong sense of nausea surged up my throat. "See how good Ethan is to me?" Chloe was still showing off, deliberately opening the trunk to let me see it filled with various designer shopping bags, one of which, The latest limited edition Birkin bag was particularly eye-catching. "These are all gifts from Ethan. He said that as long as I like it, he can give me anything." I looked at those white flats, and it was as if I saw myself back then, wearing them and following happily behind Ethan. How ironic. "No need," I refused coldly. "I just want the brooch. Even though it's broken, I have to get it back." Chloe's face changed, as if she didn't expect me to reject her kindness. She glanced at Ethan, whose face remained gloomy. "The brooch is broken. It's no use even if you want it." Chloe pouted. "Even if it's broken, I still want it," I insisted. After a stalemate, Ethan finally waved his hand impatiently, asking Chloe to pick up the brooch fragments from the ground and throw them to me. I caught the cold box with trembling hands. Inside were my father's broken efforts and my completely broken love. To leave this suffocating place, to no longer stand barefoot in this cold, rainy ground, I finally put on those disgusting flats. The shoe size was just right. I called a tow truck and then took a taxi home. Returning to the villa that was once full of warmth but now only held coldness, I didn't hesitate at all. I walked straight into the study and took out the divorce agreement I had prepared long ago from the drawer. I sent him a message, "Ethan Sterling, the divorce agreement is in the study. Sign it and have your lawyer contact me as soon as possible." Not long after the message was sent, Ethan called, his tone filled with suppressed anger. "Ava, what do you mean? Who do you think you are? How dare you mention divorce to me? I'm not discussing this with you, Ethan, I'm informing you," I said calmly. "You get back here right now and make dinner. Don't forget who you are." He still had that superior, commanding tone, as if I were still the wife who obeyed him. "Chloe Vance can make your dinner." I hung up the phone and blacklisted his number. Not long after, my assistant called, sounding anxious. "President Ava, this is bad. The Crescent Metropolis project we're following up on has suddenly been interfered with by Sterling Group. And Chloe Vance is representing Sterling Group in the follow-up. The conditions they're offering are very competitive, and several of our potential partners are starting to waver. New Moon Metropolis is a real estate project that I put the most effort into after I became independent, and it is of great significance to me. Ethan is trying to wipe me out." I took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in my heart. Sterling Group's intervention, especially through Chloe Vance, was clearly aimed at me. I remembered the early days of starting a business, when Ethan and I had disagreements over the company's development direction. I advocated steady development, while he preferred aggressive expansion. At that time, we even signed a gambling agreement on how the company's core assets and equity would be divided if we parted ways due to different business philosophies in the future. I just didn't expect that this day would really come, and in such a terrible way. "Ethan, since you are unjust, don't blame me for being unrighteous." In the evening, Ethan finally came home. He was reeking of alcohol and filled with anger, standing in the living room, looking up at me standing at the top of the stairs on the second floor. "Ava, get down here," he roared. I looked down at him from my high vantage point, as if looking at a stranger. "If you have something to say, say it here. You've grown some guts, haven't you? You dare to mention divorce to me? Weren't you embarrassed enough at the auction today?" He pointed at me, his tone full of disdain. "Is it worth it for a broken brooch? I can have as many of those little trinkets as I want." "A little trinket?" I sneered. "Ethan Sterling, have you forgotten who begged me to mortgage my father's only keepsake for startup capital back then? Have you forgotten who held me and said that one day you would definitely redeem it in glory? Now, in your eyes, it's just a little trinket? That's the past. People can't always live in the past." He was stung by my words, and became somewhat exasperated. "Look at you now, strong, stubborn, without a hint of a woman's gentleness. No wonder." He didn't finish, but the meaning was obvious. "No wonder you need to find a gentle and obedient Chloe Vance outside, right?" I said it for him. "Ethan, stop acting. I'm tired of it even if you aren't. I can't be bothered to talk nonsense with you." He waved his hand impatiently. "Divorce? Fine. Property division will be according to our original agreement. You won't get a single extra share of my equity in the Sterling Group. I only want what I deserve," I said calmly. "According to the agreement, 30% of the equity in Sterling Group belongs to me personally. I demand an immediate division of property and equity." "Don't worry, Ethan Sterling, keep my word and won't dilute your shares," he vowed. "I'm sorry, Ethan," I said, looking into his eyes. "One word at a time. I don't believe a single word of your guarantee now." His face became even more unsightly. Ava, do you have to be this way? Haven't I been good enough to you? It's raining today. Didn't I have Chloe give you her shoes? Just thinking about those shoes makes my stomach churn. Slap me and then give me a sweet date? Ethan, do you think that's caring? It's an insult. You clearly remember what shoes I used to wear, but you deliberately use this method to sting me, to remind me that we can't go back. You gave Chloe a brooch, and me a cheap substitute. You really put a lot of thought into it. He was rendered speechless by my words, his eyes flickering. And the Crescent Metropolis project. I continued to question, letting Chloe Vance steal my project. Is this what you call not treating me unfairly? Ethan's face changed repeatedly. He didn't seem to expect me to know so quickly. He took out his phone and directly dialed Chloe's number, turning on the speakerphone in front of me. Chloe, you don't need to follow up on the Crescent Metropolis project. His voice was cold and hard. Chloe on the other end of the phone was obviously very surprised. Ethan, why? Weren't we having a good discussion? I said you don't need to, so you don't need to. From now on, you are fired. Leave Sterling Group immediately, Ethan announced without a trace of emotion. Ethan, you can't do this to me. Chloe wanted to say something, but Ethan hung up the phone directly. He threw his phone on the sofa, looked up at me, and forced a tired smile on his face. Are you satisfied now? Can we have a good talk? There's nothing to talk about. I turned to go back to my room. Take a look at the divorce agreement, and sign it if there are no problems. Ava, he called out to me, his tone softening slightly, come downstairs. Let's talk face to face. I'll wait for you upstairs. I didn't turn back. A heavy thud and a muffled groan came from behind me. I turned around and saw Ethan had fallen down the stairs and was lying on the floor, pale and with his eyes closed. I was stunned. He fell? The family's maid, Mary, rushed over upon hearing the noise and frantically helped Ethan up. Sir, what's wrong? Ethan groaned, slowly opened his eyes, and looked at me standing on the stairs with a complicated expression. Ava, I immediately called for an ambulance. The doctor arrived quickly, examined Ethan, and said he had simply fainted due to low blood sugar and emotional excitement. He had a few abrasions, but nothing serious. After the doctor left, Mary helped Ethan rest on the sofa. I looked at Ethan lying there, looking a little weak, and felt no emotion. I said to Mary, I'm leaving here. If you're willing, you can come with me. I guarantee your treatment won't be worse than it is now. Mary has worked in my house for 5 years and has always been very dedicated. Mary was a little surprised, looked at me, then looked at Ethan on the sofa, and nodded. Madam, I'll go with you. Ethan heard our conversation and struggled to sit up. Ava, are you leaving? Just because I fell? I fell because I wanted you to come down. I was careless. He still wanted to salvage the situation by blaming the fall on me. I was completely heartbroken. I ignored him and walked straight back to the bedroom, taking out an old shoebox from the deepest part of the closet. Inside was a pair of very old, cheap high heels with severely worn heels. I took the shoebox downstairs, walked up to Ethan, and placed the shoes on the coffee table in front of him. Ethan, do you remember these shoes? He looked at the pair of cheap, old shoes, frowned, and seemed to think for a long time before saying uncertainly, I think I have some impression. You used to wear them? These are the first pair of high heels you gave me. I looked at him. You said that you would let me wear the most beautiful and comfortable high heels in the world in the future. Ethan's face showed a hint of disdain and disgust. Why are you keeping this kind of junk? Throw it away. We have everything now. Why bother remembering those poor days in the past? Impoverished days? In his eyes, our past of struggling together and supporting each other was just impoverished days? And the memories I cherish are just junk to him? I laughed until tears almost came out. Yes, you've long disdained it. I picked up the shoes. Ethan, thank you for reminding me that we are no longer on the same path. I put the shoes back in the shoebox and closed the lid. Sign the divorce agreement as soon as possible. Having said that, I turned and went upstairs, never looking back. 2 months later, I received a call from Ethan's lawyer. He said Ethan agreed to the divorce, but on one condition: I had to personally go to the hospital to retrieve the wedding ring. He also told me that Ethan was sick, very sick, and his eyes were blind. I was silent for a moment. Blind? Was it a sequela of the fall, or something else? But it doesn't matter anymore. I went to the hospital. In the ward, Ethan was lying on the bed with gauze over his eyes. He had lost a lot of weight and looked extremely haggard. The once spirited president of Sterling Group had now fallen to this state. He heard my footsteps, turned his head, and said in a hoarse voice, "You're here. Where's the ring?" I got straight to the point. He reached under his pillow and pulled out a small box, handing it to me. I opened it, and sure enough, it was the wedding ring I had thrown away. He actually found it. "Ava," he groped, trying to grab my hand, "try it on again, okay?" I took a step back, avoiding his touch. "No need, Ethan." My voice was calm and unwavering. "It doesn't fit anymore." His hand froze in midair. His gauze-covered face turned towards me. Although I couldn't see his expression, I could feel his momentary stiffness and loss. "The divorce agreement. I've already signed it," he said in a low voice, with a weariness and desolation I had never heard before. "The lawyer will handle the rest. Also, I've transferred another 10% of the shares of Sterling Group to your name, as compensation." Compensation? Using money to compensate for the deep-seated hurt and betrayal? I don't need it, but I didn't refuse. This is what I deserve, and what he owes me. I gently placed the ring on the bedside table, without taking it. "Ethan, I wish you a speedy recovery." After saying this polite remark, I turned and left the hospital room. Stepping out of the hospital gate, the sun was shining brightly. I took a deep breath of fresh air, feeling that the huge rock that had been weighing on my heart for so long had finally been completely removed. All the past events, loves, hates, and grudges, have settled into dust. I let go. Starting the car, I drove towards my new life. Ahead is a brand new beginning.